Hey guys, so I'm sorry if I'm kind of sick right now at the moment. I think I've got like a cold or something, so excuse the weird way my voice sounds. But uh, I haven't done a video on wrestling in about 6 months, and there's I haven't really done wrestling videos consistently for a long while, and there's kind of a reason for that. There's multiple reasons. I've kind of lost a bit of my passion for professional wrestling. Just for the way that I don't know. It's really just it's more this. I don't really know how to explain it. It's more the wrestling fans than anything. This that's what this video was going to be about, but I'll probably do that video a little while later. But I don't know. I'll do that. I'll do another video on that another time. But today I want to talk about this recent trend that's been happening within wrestling. And you really see it. It can happen in in the big companies like WWE, especially like NXT as well. But I really see this happening like mostly on the indies and most recently in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now I want to preface this by saying this isn't really me shitting on like indie wrestling or New Japan Pro Wrestling because I think that there are definitely a bunch of things that like New Japan Pro Wrestling and indie wrestling promotions does well and does much better than WWE. Um, this isn't really going to be on that though so much as the matches themselves. Um, and really, I'm not going to get into that. Anyways, this video is all over the place. Basically, these matches that people are praising as just great classic 5-star matches and everything. Um, which is funny because when I'll get into like debates with like wrestling fans and they'll use like the fact that a match got a 5-star match as if that means anything. It's like the fact that a match got a 5-star rating from like what Dave Meltzer or PWI or wherever, it's still subjective. Like even if it is Dave Meltzer that's giving it a 5-star rating, it's still his opinion. Okay, I can think that a 5-star match is maybe just a 4-star match or even a 3-star match. I can watch a match that's been rated 5 stars by whoever and not enjoy it at all. So it's all subjective at the end of the day. I think that a lot of wrestling fans, I mean, not all of them, but a lot of wrestling fans sometimes forget that matches and ratings are subjective. And when you have a differing opinion on them, they get really defensive or they just become really condescending and explain to you why you're wrong. Like they'll be like, "Well, it's okay to not like it, but you can't say this." It's like, "Yeah, I can. It's subjective. Fuck you." But anyways, that's a whole other video. But no, these matches that really all it is, I mean, like they'll be praised as great wrestling from like fans, like a bunch of fans. But I mean, like when I watch these matches, and this is one thing that I actually agree with Jim Cornette on, and I know people kind of mixed opinions on Jim Cornette. I don't agree with Jim Cornette on everything, but I do agree with him on this, and it's that these matches that people call great matches, I mean, they're really not great professional wrestling matches. They're just two athletic guys, seemingly, admittedly pretty athletic guys. They're just doing a bunch of high spots. That's all they're really doing. There's no real selling. There's no psychology, really. Not much. I mean, there's no story being told. It's just two guys doing a bunch of flashy moves, a bunch of high spots back to back, and no real wrestling. Really, it's just an exhibitionist match basically. Just guys hitting high spots after high spot after high spot, flashy move after flashy move, and no real selling, not much selling in between, and not much psychology or anything. There's no story being told. It's just like who can outspot the other. That's really all it's about. And that's the problem that I have with a lot of like specifically like Kenny Omega matches that he has with like these matches, these Kenny Omega Okada matches. I remember when the first one happened. It was being praised as the best professional wrestling match of all time or whatever. I watched it. I got like maybe 30 minutes into it and I just had to stop because I remember them going outside the ring and they were outside the ring, at least from what I remember. I could be wrong, but they were outside the ring for a while. Like they were outside the ring for a while, and I don't like matches that where both the wrestlers go outside the ring for a good amount of time because it feels unnecessary to me. It feels hokey to me. It's like, just quit fucking messing around. Just get back in the ring and have a match, you know. If I wanted to see that, I would just watch a Falls Count Anywhere match or something. I mean, I don't want to fucking see that. Just get back in the ring and wrestle, but whatever. But like, I just remember the match. It went outside the ring a lot, and it was it wasn't as much of a spot fest as I was talking about, but like it was pretty spot festy and everything, and I don't care for that. Like maybe a few years ago, I think I would have been into it, but now like my tastes have changed a little bit, and I've gotten more of an appreciation for matches that kind of start out slow and build up, and then eventually you can get to the more of the high spots of the match and everything, and then it finishes it off, and then you know. Um, so I guess it just comes down to personal preference for me, which is what this all comes down to. Any form of entertainment is just personal preference. It's subjective. But yeah, I just remember being like, this is okay. It's good, but it's not. I wouldn't even call it great. I mean, it's two athletic guys. They're just doing a lot of high spots, and and that's all it really is. I mean, like, I'll give you another example. I was watching a match. I watched this match several times actually because I just couldn't. It was from Defiant Wrestling. It's what was formerly known as WCPW Wrestling, What Culture Wrestling, but now or at least the wrestling promotion is now called Defiant Wrestling. But it was a match between Matt Riddle and I believe it was Alex Gracie, and I think it was Gracie. It was Gracie that hit a Canadian pile driver, which I believe Petey Williams made that move famous because Petey Williams from like when he wrestled early in his career, like in TNA and everything, and went on other promotions. But yeah, he hit a Canadian pile driver, which is like a flip. You flip over and pile drive someone. And I remember when he hit that move, I think it was either off the top rope or he just hit it like just in the ring. I want to say it might have been off the top rope, but either way, he hit that move, and they had been going for quite a while, mind you, that he hit that move, goes to pin Matt Riddle kicks out, and it doesn't even sell it. Like he barely sold it. And that ticked me off so much. It took me out of the match so much because it's like, dude, you just got hit by a fucking pile driver, a fucking Canadian pile driver of all things, and the dude isn't even really selling it that much. I mean, I get that sometimes wrestlers and matches will kick out of finishers. I mean, it's not really that so much, but it's just the lack of selling. I mean, but that is another thing that I have a problem with. I mean, you've got in these spot fest matches. I mean, you've got these wrestlers just hitting these moves that, and yeah, I get wrestling is the moves and everything. You don't actually hit them on people, but like still, you've got these moves that these wrestlers are hitting on each other that would fucking kill someone. I mean, you've got moves that are dropping the wrestlers on their necks and everything. Not actually dropping them on their necks, like messing the move up, but you know what I mean. Like dropping the other wrestler moves where you land on your neck or your head or something. I mean, like I said, moves that would fucking kill people in real life, but they're just kicking out of these moves, and then they're just like moving on, like they didn't just get hit with that move. They're not really selling it at all. Again, it's just a spot fest where wrestlers hit all these big moves, and another problem I have is that you're hitting all these big moves, and it's like the point of a wrestler. I thought the point of a wrestler having a finisher was that you build up to it. You build up to that point. Then the wrestlers are trying to hit their finishers, and they might kick out of it once or something, but then they'll hit the finisher again, whatever, and then eventually it'll be done, over with. But you've got these certain wrestlers that are hitting all these big moves, and they're just kicking out of them, and it's just like, what's the point? What's the point of even having a finisher? What's the point of even building up to the end part of the match? What's even the point if you're just hitting all these big moves, all these flashy moves, barely even selling them, with barely any psychology or anything. And then when you eventually hit your finisher, it doesn't really mean that much because you've already hit all these other big moves on each other. I don't get what the appeal is of it all. I don't get what makes that great wrestling. I don't get what makes those matches like great professional wrestling matches. They're fun to watch. I mean, they're good and all, like they're fun to watch, but I mean, I wouldn't call it a great professional wrestling match. And a match that is like. I don't know. There's a lot of examples that come to mind, but like Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, that would be a match to me that you can say is a great match. WrestleMania 25, by the way. But that would be a match that I could point at and be like, that's a great match. It's got plenty of spots without overdoing it. It's got the drama. It's got a story. It's got the selling. It's got everything. That's a match that I would point to and be like, that's a great match, And there's probably others, a bunch of others that I could mention, but that would be a great match, okay? When you've got, Kenny Omega and Okada doing fucking just spot after spot after spot, and barely any selling, again, barely any selling in between. And not just Kenny Omega and Okada, but other wrestlers as well, that just hits, all these big spots after high spots after high spots after flashy move after flashy move, and it just gets old and boring. It's like none of the spots, because high spots are supposed to, they're supposed to make you go like, wow, holy shit, And that's another thing, when they're hitting these high spots all the time, they're doing nothing but hitting high spots. It kind of takes away the awe of the high spots, along with the effectiveness of finishers, the point of finishers. So, I guess to wrap this up, I don't get what makes these matches great, okay? And again, it probably just comes down to personal preference, just personal preference, subjectivity. Because again, this is all subjective. What is good to someone might not be good to someone else. What someone may like, someone else may not like. But to me, I just don't get what makes these matches great, and I just don't care for them. I prefer matches that start out slow, and they slowly build up, and then towards the end there, like the last 5, 6, 7 minutes, you've got the high intensity part, and then eventually it leads to the finish where one of the wrestlers hits their finishers, or maybe they both hit their finishers and they both kick out, but then eventually the other wrestler hits their finisher again and does something and then wins, So, and I think another good example of that would be CM Punk versus Chris Hero from IWA, like back in 2003. I think it's been a while. It's an old match, but the match was like 90 minutes long, if I remember correctly. They it wasn't just high spots the whole time. They really built up to the end part there. Like they were trading holds for like maybe 45 minutes for the first part of the match. I mean, they really built up to, the high spots. And sometimes they would break out into like more faster pace, but then they would slow it back down. It told a story. It had good psychology, good selling, everything. And I feel like a lot of these matches today that are praised as being great matches that have all these high spots don't really have that, in my opinion anyways. So yeah, so that's just kind of, I had to do this video, had to kind of do this, I guess, rant, because I don't really understand it. I've gotten into it with other fans about this kind of thing, but yeah, so at the end of the day, that's just my opinion on this. It's okay if you disagree or whatever. It all, like I said, it all comes down to personal preference, but yeah, so that's pretty much it for this one. That's all I've got to say, really. And yeah, so it for this one, and I'll talk to you guys later. So peace and have a good day.